Hi guys, today we're going to begin our very first project, the Dinosaur Postcard. The first thing I want to do before I get started on this project is I want to go into my personal folder and do a little bit of organizing. Okay, so all the files that I currently have are from Module 1 where I was just experimenting and playing around. So I want to put those in their own folder. So I'll just call this folder Module 1. Grabbing all these files and getting them in there. All right, now I'm about to begin my module 2, and that is called the Dinosaur Postcard. So I'll go ahead and just right click, new folder, and I will call this Dinosaur PC for postcard, or whatever you want to call it. You could call it module 2, however you want to organize it. I think it's a really good idea to keep everything organized. It'll make everything go a lot quicker, and it'll just make your life a lot easier. All right, so now that I have that, I want to go into My Connect. So go ahead and log into My Connect and go to module 2, the Dinosaur Postcard. All right, if you go to the very bottom of the front page on this, under Resources, you'll see that there's a Dinosaurs coloring page, and we need to download that. So we'll just double click on it, and it's going to ask you, well, where do you want to download it? Make sure you go to the desktop, find your folder, and get it in the right place, and save. Okay, with that done, I'm going to go ahead and go into my folder, make sure it's in there. Okay, and there it is. Now this is a JPEG, so if I double click on it, on a Mac, it's going to want to open it in preview. Okay, so you'll see up here on your menu bar that we're in the program preview, and that's not going to help us work in Photoshop. So to get this to open in Photoshop, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could right click and open with and go to Adobe Photoshop CC, or an even easier way is you can just drag it to the Photoshop icon. All right, and there it is. Now, the first thing we want to do with this document is we want to make sure that it's the correct size. So whenever you're working with a document, an image, either that you took on a camera or that you pulled off of the internet, you always want to check the size and size it the way that you want to. So let's go to image size, and that'll tell us what we're dealing with here. All right, so what we have is we have a 14-inch by 9.333-inch document with a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. So first of all, that's kind of an odd size. And secondly, the resolution 72 is a perfect resolution if you're designing something for the web or for a phone or to email, because it's a smaller file size, it'll open quickly, but it doesn't have the best resolution for print, and we are designing for print. And the resolution, the standard resolution when you're designing for print is 300 pixels per inch. So we're going to go ahead and change that to 300 pixels per inch. So let's go ahead and just say OK or cancel. And we will be using the crop tool to resize this and to fix that resolution. And if you go to your tools panel, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tools down. Go up to your tools option panel, and the first window here we want to pull down to W by H by resolution so that we can set this to what we want it to be. And we want it to be a postcard size, and a standard postcard is 6 inches. So I'm going to type in 6 and then tab by 4 inches high, and then tab, and that third window is our resolution, and that will be 300 pixels per inch, and then tab. All right, now you'll see that here's where it's telling me I'm cropping, and the proportion of this is very similar to what I just had. You could do some adjustments if you wanted to like move in on it or make it a little bit bigger like this. You could adjust it to wherever you want to. So get it exactly where you want. But since that proportion was almost exact, you could just go ahead and accept. And then you need to come back up to your Tools option panel and click on this little check to say OK. All right, there we go. Now I want to just double check this and make sure that that size is correct. So I'm going to go to Image, Image Size, and now I have a 6 inches by 4 inches with a 300 resolution. Perfect. Okay. Now I want you to save this into your folder with a different name. All of your project files will be named with your last name first. That's really important. So let's go ahead and do that. And since this is the first time that we're saving, we're going to do a save as, file save as. Okay, and then instead of dinosaurs, we're going to call this, type in your last name and then your first name, and then you want the name of the project. So we'll call it Dino PC for short, okay? Or whatever makes sense for the name of the project for you. But the important part is that you start with your last name. We are currently in a JPEG format. That will change as soon as we add a new layer, but I'm going to go ahead and make it a PSD file right now. So I changed it to a Photoshop format and say save. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that and then go back into my folder, and you'll notice that I have my original JPEG, but I also have my PSD file with my last name and my first name. So if I double click on that, it should open automatically defaulting to Photoshop. All right, so let's continue on with this. We're going to add a new layer, and we're going to double click on that and call that eggshells. All right, and all of the color for these eggs are going to be on that layer. Now the background layer I'm also going to rename, and I'm going to call this line drawing. And you'll notice when you rename that background layer, it does unlock it. So I want to go ahead and relock it, because that line drawing layer should not have any color on it. When you are completely done with this project and ready to submit it, it's going to be important that that layer is unaltered. Okay, all of your coloring and selecting is going to be going onto different layers. All right, so on the eggshell layer, the first thing we need to do is we need to select these eggshells so that we can color them. We're going to be using the magic wand for selecting these eggshells. Remember, there are a lot of different selection tools available to you, but because this is a solid pixel color in here, we're going to go ahead and use the magic wand. That's going to be the best one for us. So if you go to the fourth tool down, that should be your quick selection tool, or it could be already showing the magic wand, but the magic wand is bundled with the quick selection tool, so make sure you're on that. And then let's go up to our tools options panel. All right, so make sure that your tolerance is at 32 in case that has changed, if somebody came in and changed that, or if you changed it while you were playing around. We want to make sure we have a tolerance of 32 for this. And then you're going to keep these checked, but you also want to check sample all layers. If you don't check sample all layers, you will need to be selecting down here on your line drawing where all your pixels currently are, and then switching to eggshells to dump. But if you check that off, you can just stay on eggshells while you select, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you. All right, so let me zoom in so we can see what happens here. So with my magic wand, I want to select this egg right here, so I just click on it. And you'll notice I have a selection here. We sometimes call those marching ants. Okay, so I have that one selected, but let's say I want to color this one at the same time, and I click over here. This one is now selected, but then this one has lost its selection. So in order to select multiple areas at once, you need to hold down the Shift key. Okay, so while this is selected, I'm going to hold Shift and then click this eggshell. Now you can see that they're both selected. So while I'm holding Shift, I'm going to go ahead and select like every other eggshell here. You also want to pay attention to what's going on back here. So I believe this is an eggshell. Whatever you think on this. Some students think that Some of these parts are part of a dinosaur body, and that's okay. You can treat it that way if you'd like to. It's totally up to you. I will not mark you down for how you interpret the photo. Okay, so whatever you think is going on there. All right, so I have some selections here. Now I'm going to either double click on my foreground color, or remember, you can come straight up here to your color picker. And I want to get kind of an eggshell color, so maybe something like that. That looks kind of eggshelly to me. All right, now to dump this color, you're going to use the paint bucket. And the paint bucket is bundled with the gradient tool, which is right here. So if I click and hold the gradient tool, you're going to go to the paint bucket tool. And then you come over to where you want the color to go. And you want that little black arrow to be inside the area where you're dumping. Okay? And it will dump everywhere I have a selection. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. Command 0 is fit on screen. Okay, just to see how that looks, and I think that looks good. So to deselect, the shortcut is Command D. Now I want to color the rest of those eggs, so I'm going back to my magic wand, and I'm going to start selecting what didn't get colored already. And remembering to hold Shift when I select multiple areas. Okay, and then I'm going to change my color. We'll have some green eggs in there. Go back to the paint bucket and dump again. Then Command D to deselect, making sure I didn't forget anything, and I think I pretty much got that covered. And then we have this stuff down here at the bottom. So there's also a lot of debate about what is that stuff. Some people think it's egg yolk, although I think the egg yolk would be gone by the time the baby dinosaur had developed, since that's what they eat. That's their nutrition while they're in the egg. So I'm not really quite sure. Some people think it's grass or bits of eggshell or maybe part of the nest. I'm not sure. But if you, whatever you decide on that, if you want to make a new layer for that and call it, you know, goo or grass or whatever you want to call it, you can. But if you think it's bits of eggshell, then you can keep it on the eggshell layer. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to leave it on my eggshell layer. So I'm going back up to my magic wand and I'm going to grab all these little pieces. And I think I might change the color on that. Back to my paint bucket and dump that in. Command D to deselect. All right, so we're off to a really good start here. That's going to be it for this tutorial. Hopefully you took really good notes on that. Make sure you review the PDF notes document as well. Tomorrow you'll be on the computer actually doing this work. Make sure you do it exactly the way I showed you. We want this on the bottom called line drawing, and then we want a layer above that called eggshells. I can turn the visibility of that off, by the way, and all that color disappears. So all the color that I put down is on this new eggshell layer right where it belongs. Don't forget to do a save. Now, since I already did a save as, this time I can just go to File, Save, and it will go back to the last place where I saved it, which is my folder, and it'll keep the name that I gave it, which was Last First Dino PC. If this comes up, say Don't Show Again, and OK.